Hey, hello everybody. This is Coach Bala here. Welcome to yet another episode of Reflections, our podcast with runners, celebrities, athletes, mountaineers, anyone and anybody close to our mission, which is no runner left behind, and now bringing the extraordinary from just ordinary people. That's really what our team is all about, our mission is all about, and it is with that frame of reference, I am super excited to be here with two very special guests, Jafar Ismail and Lubna Ismail. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
for
Bala.
having us.
Thank you for having us.
So before we get started, I just wanted to give a little bit of context to our viewers. Last time you saw us, or those of you who have not seen part one of this episode, Jafar and myself go a very long way back. We have done mountains together. We have climbed multiple summits together. We started our half marathon running journey together, and we've done a lot of things together. He's we two are from the same alma mater as well, same college, and we are very close. Suffice it to say, not only myself and Jafar, we are very close with Lubna. Our families are great friends, so we go a long way back. The last podcast I did, which is part one of this series, was when Jafar made a momentous decision, a decision that sort of sent tremors in our friend circle. I'm sure it did with him as well. And that decision was to go and make an attempt to climb Mount Everest and stand on top of the Everest summit. Now, just to make a decision like that itself requires a tremendous amount of courage, a tremendous amount of, challenging the status quo, and a tremendous amount of family support, which he had all of that. And he made that decision, and that is what our part one of our episode of our podcast was. And today is a continuation of that, where I cannot express my excitement to say that our man is having this beautiful t-shirt that says, "I climbed Mount Everest May 19th, 2024. Congratulations, Jafar.
Thank you so much, Bala. Thank you.
Summited Everest. That is Jafar, and now you know why I'm so excited. And I also wanted to congratulate Lubna. Can you please show your t-shirt as well?
Absolutely.
It says, "My husband climbed Mount Everest," and she is very proud. Congratulations, Lubna. You deserve that. Every
you
bit
so
of
much.
congratulations to you as well. So folks, today in this episode, we're going to start with where we left part one, which is, we said, hey, we are creating this organization called RHWB Events, which is a non-profit organization with a theme that says aspire, perspire, inspire. That was a tagline for that. So the idea was, let us support ordinary folks planning to do extraordinary things. Let them aspire for big, huge goals. Let them perspire and work for it. And when they succeed, they inspire a whole lot of people. So that was the thought process behind it. And my friend Jafar was kind enough to say that, "Hey Bala, let me be your specimen number one for this RHWB events." And what a specimen we got. What a project we got. Oh my goodness. The project was Jafar going and climbing Everest, and that was part one. And here we are today to talk about what happened from that point onwards to where we are today. Are we ready for it? Are we ready for it?
We definitely are. This is something that, ordinary people trying to achieve the extraordinary. This was one of the goals for this project, and I am actually very happy to say that we achieved our first goal.
I'm humbled, Jafar, that you've taken this to the next level. But let me first start with Lubna. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Lubna,
Yes.
first of all, maybe a little introduction about yourself. Mother, tell me a little bit about who you are as a person.
Okay. I am a mom and a wife to an amazing personality that you will get to know. And also I am, I guess you could say, a business lady, an entrepreneur. So basically I have, multiple businesses and that's
successful.
about it.
I mean, she's underplaying successful businesswoman. She's got how many sort of restaurants under your franchise right now?
So currently we have about around 11, and but about 14 on the way. But currently we have 11 that are open and running.
11 franchises. She is the owner of it all, and I know you do other businesses as well. It's always a pleasure to see a women entrepreneur kind of making a mark. So congratulations, Lubna. Apart from all the great things we're going to talk today, that itself deserves a huge congrats. And you're also a runner, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And amongst all these things, this group has inspired me to do something that was unthinkable for me. Going from a couch potato to finishing a 5K.
Yeah, that's
and all because of Bala and Runner's High with Bala. That has really, really encouraged me, inspired me. And I'm not just saying this because it took me quite some time, believe me, to sign up because I was contemplating, but now I'm encouraging everyone around me. And it was just an amazing experience.
And
looking forward to season 12.
Absolutely. And Lubna has also volunteered with us, and she's been with us in Runner's High in one form or the other. So glad that you conquered your own Mount Everest in 5K last time. It's not easy to do a 5K, especially as you said, from not doing anything to coming and doing 5K. That's a big, huge achievement, as big as what Jafar has done. So congratulations, seriously. It's a huge deal. It's a big inspiration for a lot of women out there. But coming back to the topic at hand, why I wanted to start off with Lubna, ladies and gentlemen, is for, they say that behind every successful man there is a successful woman, and I cannot find a better example, than this lady here. Without Lubna, I do not think, or I can say that Jafar's summit would have been 2x more difficult. Is that fair to say?
That is certainly, yes, that is very fair to say. In fact, without Lubna, I don't think the trip would have even gotten
possible.
started.
Exactly. You're right. For a husband to decide to do an Everest summit requires a tremendous amount of courage and support requirements from the family. And it is one thing to support, but supporting it with the grace with which Lubna did. That's leadership at its highest level, Lubna, and we want to talk a little bit about it today. Okay? So with that, folks, I want to, there's so much to discuss today. So I want to divide this conversation into 6 parts. We will first, in part 1, we will talk about where we left the last podcast, which is you finished your planning and you're ready for it. And how did that go in terms of before you left New Jersey? What are all the sort of preparations, emotions, family decisions? What happened there? A little bit of context there from your side, Lubna, as well as from your side. Then part 2 is about you reached Kathmandu, and then you sort of decided to do the first trek, which is from Kathmandu to Everest Base Camp, which itself is a 6-7 day trek, which itself is a pretty marquee big climb that people do. I have done it with him, so that itself is a big achievement for tons of people. That's what you did. I want to talk a little bit about that. Then how was EBC? Like, what was you stayed how long in Everest Base Camp?
About 6 weeks.
6 weeks in Everest Base Camp at what, 18,000 feet? Something like that.
So,
right?
yeah, 17,500.
17,500 feet. He stayed in Everest Base Camp for 6 weeks, and I'm sure that itself is an experience. I would love to talk a little bit about that. And then once that was done, once he got settled, the next phase of that was he had to do some acclimatizations. Couple of going up and down, going to a nearby mountain, coming back. I wanted to get a little bit into that detail a little bit. So that is like part 4, you can call it part 4 of the story.
Yes.
And part 5 of the story is actually climbing to Camp 4, which is just one step below the final summit. And then that's part 5, and then part 6 is climbing the summit and coming back.
Correct.
That's the story we're going to talk about.
Wow.
So let's talk about story 1. And please, Jafar, go into details. We want to understand what happened. I'm just going to ask the question and listen to your story, okay?
Okay.
So let's talk about part one. Maybe Lubna, you can start.
Sure.
How was your house? How did you feel when the day was approaching that he is leaving for Everest? It's not like he's just going on a business trip.
Yeah.
How was the feeling? How was Jafar? How was the family? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, there was definitely some excitement, but of course, beneath the excitement, there was obviously that elephant in the room that nobody wanted to talk about,
Which is
that this may be the last time that we're going to see him.
that's
And,
a real.
It was a real thing.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to. None of us wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
So when Jafar made the decision, incidentally, it was at the party that we were all at, and it made that announcement that he's going to climb Mount Everest. And we came home, and on that way home, I looked at him and I said, "Are you really doing this?" And he said, "Yeah, I think I'm going to go for it." So I thought to myself, like I said in one of my posts, that if you can't beat them, join them. There was no, so I just wanted to be that support. I wanted to just, just really make sure that he gets to do and fulfill his dreams.
Just
to
being
the best.
positive about all of
Being
this.
positive about all of it. So that day, we obviously leading up to it, we told our kids, and the kids were super excited. I think initially the boys were super, super excited and everything, because we didn't really think about the dangers of it. It was just an exciting thing. Like, oh, Baba did, Mount Aconcagua, now he's doing Mount Everest. Like, there was a lot of excitement.
Yeah.
But as we approached the day, or day before, that whole, it was setting in that, okay, he's leaving tomorrow. So I remember frantically, asking him, what should I prepare? Should I, make some bags with, nuts and stuff? What do you need? I made him, this huge dispensary. I went to CVS and picked up everything I get. Eye drops, ear drops, nose drops, anything. And then so I literally rolled up with almost everything in my cart. So the pharmacist actually, and then called up my friend and had her had them send him an antibiotic, just because I figured
You felt good.
I felt good that he will have a Z-Pack. So so when I went to pick up the Z-Pack, the pharmacist, she's like, "What is all this? Why are you what's going on?" And so I told her, "My husband's climbing. My husband's climbing Mount Everest." She's like, "What?"
Yeah, it takes people don't comprehend
she's
this.
he's doing what? And so I said, "Yeah, he's actually leaving tomorrow." And I'm trying to put together. She's like, "Oh, you don't need this. You don't need this. I'm a pharmacist. You don't, just get the Vaseline. You don't need this." So she literally consolidated my dispensary to what he may need at the moment, and I made a bag and I made things, and I was just did what I needed to do.
What about you, Jafar? What was your mindset? And
Well, leading up to my departure date, I had a list of things that I needed to take in terms of equipment, clothing, etc. And so that I had packed, and of course, since I'd been climbing for some time, so I was aware of that. So I had that ready. Everything was was packed. On the other side, the things that I felt that we had to prepare was there were things that she would have to run the business while I was gone. She would have to take I don't know, and then there was always this fear
this big elephant in the
this
room.
big elephant that nobody talked about. But since I was at the core of that, I kind of wanted to be sure that they knew that hey, in case if I don't come back, what if
What you should do?
Of course, I could not talk directly with Lubna about it, but I did talk to one of my kids, and I told him that, hey, there is a possibility that this will happen.
Wow.
If this not, so here are the things, and of course I told him, okay, these are the places you can go to find the information, and this is where my life insurance is kept, etc. So
Yeah.
I told it to one of my kids. I don't want to put him on the spot right now. So, and I said, you know what, this is where you will have to, step up and take the lead there. And also with Lubna, we went over things that that she would do in my absence, what she would do, and of course I was told that we would have connectivity there, and I would be able to stay in touch with her. I did tell her that it would be possible. May not be possible for me to be online. Maybe I can be on the phone with her, and help her in those things. So we covered those aspects of it. In terms of preparations, two things that I asked her to do was, hey, well, number one was, our snacks and, trail mix and all, which she is
Very good at.
she's very good at, and you all know that. And I think I mentioned once that I made more friends because of the trail mix.
100%. She's the best when it comes to that.
Yeah. And then other thing is, the dispensary. Now, she talked about the dispensary, but it covered literally everything. Like, what if I got a sprain? There was a bandage. If I got a toothache, there was something for that. So there's something for everything that I
You
could
still have all of that?
Yeah.
I still have
You
it.
go back.
Thankfully, other than ibuprofen and Tylenol, I don't think I used anything
It
else.
came back just the way it left.
Everything came back the way it is. In a way, I think that's a good thing that we didn't use it.
Yeah.
But we were prepared for everything.
Every eventuality.
Every eventuality we were prepared.
Were you
for.
able to sleep the night before you left?
It was, I think, we met the night before I was leaving.
Yeah.
Yes, I did have a very fitful sleep, and because next morning I was leaving, and the one thing in my mind was, hey, what if this is the last time?
It's your house.
This is the last night for me in my house. What if I don't come back? That thought was nagging me all night.
Was that thought there right through your expedition?
Yes, it has always been a thought at the back of my mind, and one of my wishes every morning when I woke up, I made a small prayer, and I hoped that hey, I did not want to think too far ahead, but all I said was, hey, I just need to survive one day at a time,
Beautiful.
and then we'll see that. And then my wish was like, hey, because knowing what we know and what we knew back then also, that many people, of the people that go to Everest, about 6-7% people don't come back.
Yes.
Those are the raw statistics, and unfortunately, that will be the case in the
Every
mountains.
year, every season.
Every year, every season. Sometimes it may be a little bit more, a little bit less, but that would be the case. I did not. I prayed that I should not be the part of that statistics. I wouldn't care if I came back and the next day if something happened.
That's fine.
That's fine. That would be acceptable. But I did not want to not return from my expedition.
Now see guys, it's a very powerful and very insightful comment from Jafar. A big expedition like this, everyone says it's very mental, and this is the starting point of that.
Mm-hmm.
Having the mental strength to manage these emotions in a mountain is leadership, and the physical strength is easier to manage, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
Managing this thought, the negative thought, the positive thought, both colliding with each other and constantly managing. And I think he said a beautiful statement, which is one day at a time. And I think as if runners out there who are doing the marathons and such for the first time, we always say 1 mile at a time. This is one day at a time. So this logic is the same. Even any big thing you do, small steps, try to capture that and then go from there. Let's move on to next phase of this. Before we go to the next phase, I think Lubna, you started off a beautiful WhatsApp group, a support group for Jafar around this time, isn't it?
Actually, incidentally, I believe Jafar had just started it.
I see.
The WhatsApp group, and he added some of his core group of friends, just main friends. And then he told me, you can go ahead and add a few of your friends or whoever you want to add. And so I added a few friends, and as the word got out that Jafar's traveling and he's going to Mount Everest, pretty much everyone wanted to be in on this. And then it happened that, obviously I added my kids and some of my family members. And then the kids were getting phone calls, like they wanted to be a part of this group. So then we ended up sending them links, and then their friends' friends were on it, and then it just
Before you know it, just blew up.
It blew up. And then Jafar's friends from DMET, from your college, all from overseas. I mean, I have people from India, I had people from Dubai, we had people from San Francisco.
Who probably some of them don't even know Jafar face to face, but
Yes.
they still were
Yes.
with the part of the group.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I think other DMET groups heard about it, like 68 to 72. We knew of them, but those people found out that I'm attempting to climb Everest, and they joined the group.
Yes, and a small plug here, folks. DMET is our alma mater, DMET, Directorate of Marine Engineering Training, and we all graduated from that. It's a marine engineering school. It's a small school in terms of the number of graduates per year, but we are very well knit community. So if you're a DMETN, we call it DMETN, and if you see another DMETN, there is this instant bonding that happens, and that's what happened when one of us went for this kind of an expedition. That's what Jafar was saying. Like many DMETians, even if they don't know him personally, they want to be there vicariously,
Yes,
sort of
yeah.
supporting you. Okay, so let's talk about, you did all this, said bye-bye. I'm sure it was a very very emotional bye-bye, isn't it? In the airport.
Actually, no, it was not too emotional. We went to the airport and said goodbye. I was a bit surprised because Lubna asked me to, okay, now you can just go to the gate, and I was like, okay. I said, maybe she needed a moment alone, and so I left. But
How was
there
yours,
was
Lubna?
Well, I will disagree. I feel like it was a very emotional,
For you?
not just for me, for my boys as well.
Yeah.
I mean, for my daughter, she had called in, but the two younger ones, they were with me that day, and I can see our youngest giving Jafar a hug and sort of holding on. He
Yeah.
didn't want to let go.
Yeah.
And then my other son, Nasser, he came with me to drop Jafar to the airport, and we parked the cart and we went upstairs and we said we're just gonna say bye to Baba, and it's gonna be really positive because we don't want him to see, we just want him to see how positive this is. And but we sat in the car and we both looked at each other and we both said, we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to say it.
I know.
And he said, it's going to be all right. And I said, of course he is.
Yeah.
He's going to be just fine.
Positive reinforcement. Yeah, this is that's a fascinating part. That's why, Lubna, I'm so glad that you're here. As we speak through the story, we'll always see the other side of this story. So Jafar, take us to Kathmandu. You're in Kathmandu, and I think the next 7-8 days is about doing that trek to EBC. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I reached Kathmandu on April 3rd, and that same evening I met the remaining team. We met our lead Sherpa, our base camp manager from the staff, and the operators, and of course Rajan was with me. He picked me up from the airport, took me to the hotel, and to meet with the team, and he stayed on.
And the team is all disparate team. You never know these team members
Yes.
before.
So there were 4 people from Poland and 4 from the US. And from the US, I was meeting everybody for the first time.
I see.
Of course, we had a WhatsApp conversation in the past, so I kind of knew who was coming from where. But I was meeting all of them for the first time
I see.
on the dinner on April 3rd. So after introductions, so basically that evening was just introductions and then an outline of the plans for the coming days. Next day was on April 4th, we went through checked my equipment. One thing that they wanted me to change was, I had my descender was not the right one. They said, get another one. So I just bought a few things and locally from there and out of the equipment. Other than that, my equipment list was complete. And so that day was just spent, pretty much
Relaxing.
relaxing and repacking stuff, because we had some stuff that was going to go travel with us along the trek to the base camps, Everest base camp trek, and then some stuff that was going to go straight to the base camp.
Yeah.
So we divided our stuff off accordingly, and then on April 5th was when we took the flight to Lukla.
So Lukla is your first starting point of the EBC trek.
Correct.
That's right. Yeah.
So that morning we woke up, breakfast, and after breakfast we, took the bus to Lukla airport. After that, if people that have not done the EBC trek, you get on this really small plane, capacity of maybe 15 to 20 people, and then the flight to from Kathmandu to Lukla is about 45 minutes. But the thing about Lukla airport is that it has a very short runway.
Yeah.
First of all, it's at the highest elevation in the world, like it's something like 2,800 meters. That's the elevation, and I'll be talking in meters because feet and meters.
Yep.
It's easier to keep one unit.
It's about 10,000 feet, let's say.
Yeah. So 2,800 meters is the elevation of Lukla airport, and it's only about 500 meters long, which means that once the plane lands, it has to decelerate and stop within like 4 to 5 seconds, and then it takes a quick turn and into the airport. So there are videos on YouTube that you can look at. It's a very short runway. So, and these pilots are specially trained because there are some crosswinds. The plane goes through between two mountains, and then lands at the airport, and within 5 seconds it stops. So that is one of the exciting part of the whole trek, because suddenly the landing is pretty spectacular. And of course, like everybody who gets off the plane basically waits for the next plane to come to see the landing, to see how
Did this happen?
How does this happen? Yeah. So from Lukla we collected our things. We actually went to have another meal, coffee, and another meal to get set before we start our trek. So the first day's trek is not that much, because from Lukla we go to a place called Phakding, and which incidentally we start from 2,800 meters. Phakding is actually at 2,600
So you
meters.
go down a little bit.
You actually go down a little, 200 meters. There. And we went there, spent the night at Phakding, and next morning is the trek that will take us to Namche Bazaar.
And I remember you posting from there, and that was sort of like the first post or stories that we started getting. And I remember sending him a message from DDLJ, Jafar Jaz, Jile apni zindagi."
Something like that, yes. That's another thing, while this is happening here, he was, sending, because good connection, the internet connection, even in EBC, the Everest Base Camp, there's good connection. So he kept on like a live video blog kind of thing. While this was happening, Lubna was our chief, should I say, commentator, chief jester, like fun, moderator, poem writer, translator from, Urdu, Hindi to English to, she was doing it all. Because it's like a very eclectic group of people from different age groups. So, she managed it beautifully with so much of humor, like she said. This in between, like in this movie Sholay, there was love in it, emotions, drama, anger, frustration, everything was there. And we all enjoyed that show very, very well while our Jafar was sending these beautiful pictures of the mountains.
And of course, like the EBC trek is very scenic. So, and and it gets intense too, because
it's a marquee climb for people, regular people. It's a marquee climb.
It's so the next day we went up to the Namche Bazaar, where we stayed for two nights.
Yeah.
And then while at Namche Bazaar, one day we took a trek all the way to Everest View Hotel. So that's where, and Namche Bazaar also has a museum, Tenzing Norgay Museum. That is where we got the first view
of the Everest.
Everest and Lhotse together.
How did it look?
Man, that day, I guess initial few days, we could see, if you take a picture, you could see a cloud on top of Everest. That was actually not a cloud. That was actually the wind blowing the snow from the
From
summit.
the Everest summit.
From the summit. So it looked like a perpetual cloud on top of Everest.
And were you thinking, am I going to be on that place?
That is what every climber who was there at the museum or at the Everest View Hotel. Fortunately we had a very clear view of Everest from both locations, and that was a thought in everybody's mind, like, how could we get to the top of that? How do we get there? Man.
So then after Namche Bazaar, what all different spots you went?
Yeah, so after Namche Bazaar, we continued on. We go to a place called Tengboche. Tengboche has a monastery. It's a very popular monastery, and we spent a night there. And last time we had gone, we had passed Tengboche and stayed at a different place, but this time we stayed at a location at the tea house right across from the monastery. So we spent that evening at the monastery, just walking around, watching the rituals. Of course, could not take pictures there because they didn't allow us, but we spent some time, looking at the monks and their rituals. And then the following day we continued our trek, and the next stop we made was at Dengboche. Dengboche is almost like 4,400 meters elevations, and that is where you start feeling the effects of the elevation.
It's like 15,000 feet almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then Dengboche we stayed for 2 nights, and then so that next day we did a acclimatization hike to a peak that was close by, that was almost 5,000 meters, which is like almost 16,500 meters. And I forget the name, Nang Shang or something.
Okay.
That's the name of the peak. So that day I felt the effect of altitude.
So for those of you who are sort of new to the mountains or hearing about this for the first time, let me give a 1 minute context here. So folks, when you're climbing a mountain, there are 2 things, actually there are 3 things every climber need to get ahead of. One is the mental strength we talked about, which is the most important thing. Maybe 50% of that is mental strength. Second, of course, is the physical strength, like leg strength and various other portions of it, which is also very important. Without physical strength, you won't be able to climb a mountain. Then comes the third one, which is acclimatizing to altitude, which is something which is a biggest speed breaker for anyone who has not done an altitude before. So what happens is, as you keep climbing up, oxygen levels go down, so your blood is not ready or equipped enough to take oxygen from a little lower concentration oxygen in the atmosphere. So you start as if you're panting. Even though you're just walking a couple of steps, you will start panting because oxygen is not enough. So the body realizes that, hey, I am in a slightly lower oxygen content atmosphere, so it starts manufacturing more RBCs to absorb more oxygen. This process is called acclimatization. And we need the mountaineers to take some time in these high altitude areas so that more RBCs can be created, your body can be acclimatized, and then you can keep going up. This is the foundation of any high altitude mountain climbing, and which is what Jafar just said. He went up to 16,500 feet and he started feeling it because he hasn't sort of been there for some time. So he felt that, and looks like you got acclimatized a little later.
Yes. So and then once we got to that point, came back to Dengboche again, which is like 4,400 meters again, and spent another night. So that helps the acclimatization process.
Yeah.
You go to a higher location and then come down to a lower location and rest. Yeah. So that's it. And then from Dengboche, so then we left Dengboche that day, and then the day after was a long trek all the way to Labuche. And on the way to Labuche, we stopped at the Kalapattar Lodge. which is a spot for a lunch for all the trekkers. Stop
Famous
there.
spot. Yeah.
It's a very famous spot. And then once you leave the lodge, maybe half an hour into the hike, you come to a spot where it's a memorial for the mountaineers that have perished, and especially in the 1996 avalanche.
Yeah.
So it's you can see people from all nationalities. You can see people from all over the world, like that have mountaineers that did not return home.
It's a solemn kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody stops there for some time, and then we continue on, and our next stop is Labuche. Labuche is almost at 5,000 meters, 4,900 something. The elevation is almost 5,000 meters, and we typically spend a night there, and then the following day we continue on to
Base camp.
base camp. So from Labuche we make a stop at Gorakshep, which is about 3 miles, and from Gorakshep to the base camp is about 2.5 miles.
Perfect.
So
Here we are. Jafar has reached base camp. So Lubna, at this point, you remember, he sent a lot of videos and pictures, and I think it was like a gala time in our WhatsApp group, isn't it?
Yeah,
How was your
absolutely.
experience that time?
Yeah, no, and then basically I saw that the group was growing, and I felt the responsibility sort of to say, okay, well, here are all the pictures coming in. We need to keep this group lively. And I remember, which was a great thing that you did, was telling everyone, let's just start doing emojis, answering in emojis, because if everyone starts writing something, there's hundreds of us. But then the funny thing happened, some of our seniors didn't understand that, and then they would do the emojis outside of the emojis and
Like
send
emoji responses.
emoji responses, and we ended up deleting some of those, and they would,
Like fun moments,
yeah,
right?
it was fun
Different-
moments, but we were like, okay, let's keep this lively.
And I
Let's
think isn't
keep
that the
this going.
time you came up with an idea that, given it was like a disparate group from different places, people should introduce themselves a little
Yes,
bit, something
so-
like that.
I had actually spoken to Jafar that night, and he had said to me, it's getting real.
Yeah.
It's now getting real. Like, we've come down, we're getting back now, we're going back. And I said to myself, okay, I need to keep his mind busy. I need to do something that would encourage him, give him something to look forward to.
Yeah.
So I thought about, hey, why not do some introductions? So at that point I wrote, hey everyone, it's great to see that, there's so many of us, but from around the world, I'd love to see who's on the group, and why don't you tell us how you met this wonderful man for the first time?
And you started off with your own introduction.
I did, and I said I met him, and then everyone just started chiming in, and that was really nice. And actually, incidentally, that night Jafar said, "Hey, thank you so much, because I really love that you did that."
Because I feel you suddenly start feeling alone in the mountains, isn't it?
that is correct, because once we got to the base camp, that's when I said, you know what, this is going to be home for the next 5-6 weeks. Well, this is where
It's strangers, literally.
Yeah. And another thing is, we all know base camp is just a barren piece of land for 10 months of the year, and just it comes alive 2 months. All these tents go up, and it's almost like a tent city. It's typically once all the teams move in, it's about a mile long, and width-wise it's less than quarter of a mile wide.
It's like a small village.
And then it's like a small village, and then on to one side is your glacier, the Khumbu Glacier that's flowing, and on the other side is just a hill,
Another mountain.
another mountain. So, and base camp sits right there, and the ground is mud, rock, and ice mixed together.
Wow.
So your tent could be resting on, let's say if you're on what your tent is resting on, and if the ice under your tent melts, your tent will sink. Sink up. And this is something, and so this is how the entire base camp
So
is.
tell me a little bit about life in base camp in terms of how was the food, what did you do for taking bath,
Okay.
like what did you do for sleeping, like tell me a little bit about
So
that.
everybody, so for base camp, we had a luxurious tent. In my tent, like, and I could stand in my tent. It was the height, the ceiling height was almost 6 feet.
So you're able to
And
stand.
I was able to stand, and
That's luxury.
That's luxury.
Luxury.
Yeah, because after that, I could not stand up straight in any tent, and then had space for my luggage and all, and we
Is
had
it one per tent or like you have two made as well?
typically one per tent.
Okay, good.
So at least for the climbers, it's one per tent, and I think, and there are some operators that offer, like, a desk and chairs to their
Inside the tent?
Inside the tent.
Oh,
And
wow.
There were some places had closets and all.
Oh.
Of course, my operator Satori, we had very decent tents, but not that kind of luxury. So that was our sleeping tent, and the time where we spent, place where we went to sleep. Next place was our dining tent. Dining tent was pretty spacious because there were 8 climbers, so we had, like, enough space, and it was very well stocked with juices and snacks and anything.
Like
that you
fridge
want.
and everything is there?
Not fridge, but
Yeah.
It was well stocked.
And
then-
how was the food?
and the food they would prepare fresh. Our cooks were really good. You could ask them for anything. Breakfast.
Oh, it's made to order food like a hotel?
Made to order
like a restaurant?
food. Yes.
Wow.
So in the morning you could. I mean, of course, you had to make an order for the next meal before that. So, like, for example, after dinner they would ask you what you want for breakfast. You could pick eggs. What type of eggs you wanted? How many eggs you wanted? You
Wow.
wanted boiled eggs, or you wanted fried eggs, omelets, sunny
Wow.
side up.
So give me a menu, a typical day menu. Give me, like, okay, morning
Okay.
eggs with what? Like puri and all you get? Or
Yeah, you can get bread with a toast, or you can ask for chapati. You can ask for puris. You can ask for, and then what typically I would ask for is either chapati with some kind of sabzi along with 2 eggs.
Wow.
Sometimes boiled, sometimes omelette.
Wow.
Omelette, they were
At least for this, I want to go to ABC. What
Yeah.
else?
No wonder he wasn't missing home.
Yeah. So it was breakfast is good, and lunch typically could be, like, we could ask for dal bhat, which is very popular in Nepal, or you could ask for rice with some kind of
Like even vegetarian, non-vegetarian, both are
Yeah.
available? Okay.
yeah. Typically, I mean, they did have chicken, but I was trying to avoid non-veg because I don't want to get sick.
Yeah.
That was one thing. There were people, like, who were, but I was trying to stay vegetarian, just eat as many eggs as possible, and I was trying to eat more vegetarian because with the meat you don't know, like, if it's not cooked well, and especially at that elevation, it has to be cooked for a long time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's this chance. So I was avoiding all meats, and just staying with a vegetarian diet. But trying to have chana, and there was another Indian American with us, and who had his
Pizza stuff as well?
yeah, we had pizzas when we wanted.
So, like, what was your favorite, like the tastiest sort of dish you had in EBC?
That would be my breakfast, because
All the eggs and all the preparation?
Yeah, eggs and all the preparations and all.
Wow, this sounds
So
like
what
a
was
party.
lunch and what was dinner?
Yeah.
Lunch, typically sometimes I would have sabzi with rice, or sabzi with chapatis, and I was avoiding puris also because I
Oil
didn't want to
and all
have
that.
oil and all. I didn't want to have too much oil, and same thing with dinner.
What
as well.
time typically dinner is served?
Breakfast was usually between around 8 or sometimes 9 o'clock. Lunch was around 1 o'clock. Dinner was 6.
And then is it like it becomes dark or is there lights out there? Like how does it work?
Yeah, so it gets dark around 7.
Okay.
7ish. So dinner time, and then in the evenings the dining tent was heated. There was a portable heater there.
Wow. So do you have massage as well? Like
No, not,
okay, I'm asking
not-
for too much. Okay, got it.
That's asking for too much. Yeah, you gotta take your own mess.
Bless you.
Yeah.
You
So-
said yaks were bringing this stuff up, right? How did they transport it?
So there were all the stuff was being transported either by yaks,
Okay.
who were basically anything big, heavy items, and then there were porters that were bringing human porters, Nepalese porters that were bringing a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
the lifeblood of the
Yes.
Nepalese economy and
Yeah.
all over. Okay, so that's on the food side. Then what about bathroom?
Bathrooms, okay. Our bathrooms, we had for the toilet was hole in the ground and there was a barrel placed
So
in.
that means no New Jersey ladies are going to go for this. That means, as my experience says, no.
Maybe
Right,
not,
no
maybe
chance.
not. With the hole in the ground with the barrel, and that was a big barrel, and it eventually got full.
Oh, and how about the smell? Oh,
I mean, the smell, but I think after day 2 or so,
It
you
doesn't
get,
matter.
It doesn't matter. You kind of get used to it.
Okay.
And so there were 2 of those toilets, and those for number 1, there was just a tent with nothing on the, it's just ground, and you just go.
That's
in
it.
there. That's it. That's
That's the
it.
luxury. That's the
That's
best
luxury.
luxury you can get.
Yeah, showers. You could have unlimited showers.
What do you mean? You have actual bathroom where you can take a shower?
I-
Hot
I-
water?
You could request them. They would basically get a bucket of hot water to you, and it was in a tent, and that tent had nothing. It was just a tent.
Like a shower, as in like shower.
Yeah.
Where do you get the pressure from?
So
for this?
the same bucket, they would hang it, and there was a faucet there that you could open and take a shower.
Oh, what
But
pressure.
I preferred the traditional way with a bucket,
Mug and just-
mug and almas, and that's how I.
So were you able to take shower? Like, did you take shower every day, or is
Not
it?
every day, but I did take shower, as needed.
Got it. And in this time in EBC,
And then the one thing is, like in afternoons, sometimes used to get cold. So sun would come out in the morning, and there was around 11, 12 would be the time when the temperature would be the highest. That was the time to take a shower, because then you could dry yourself out and still be comfortable. Afternoons, most of the times invariably were colder.
cold, yeah.
And sometimes there were snow flurries, and not sometimes, most of the times there were snow flurries, so that was not a good time for a shower.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have a good food arrangement. You had a decent place to sleep in a nice own tent of yourself, place to take a shower. May not be the greatest restroom, but that's the best you can you
Yeah.
can get. What else you need? Any medical tent availability?
They had emergency doctors available. I did not have the opportunity to, or I didn't go. I was not
But
sick.
there
so
was
I
a
never-
medical tent as well.
There was a medical tent. It was a little further away from our camp, but I didn't go there, so it was probably 5-10
Brilliant.
minutes
And
away.
I'm assuming internet connection, phone connections.
Internet connection was there. We had to get the Wi-Fi,
Local
and
Wi-Fi.
Local Wi-Fi, and then each operator set up their own Wi-Fi, and we would connect to that. That worked sometimes. Most of the times it didn't work, but we had to just look at the time. Sometimes, especially busy time, early evenings. I don't think anybody got Wi-Fi. It was either late nights or.
And that's
early
where when you
morning.
get all those WhatsApp messages, I'm sure you felt
Correct.
good.
Yeah, and sometimes uploading pictures, especially from there, would take like 15 running minutes. You would start the upload and start eating, and suddenly you've done
One
stop.
picture has gone.
and then you try again, and that's how you.
Wow, thank you for doing that, Jafar, because we enjoyed all the pictures you sent.
Yes.
And you sent a lot of pictures. Okay, so let's go to the next phase. So this is you getting comfortable, but of course, staying in EBC is not it's
Yeah.
just a means to an end. What is the plan right now? What's the phase 3, which is preparing yourself?
Okay. Couple of things, because one of the first things that we did was we got training for using the Jumar, climbing the ice wall.
Okay, what's a Jumar? Let's start with that.
Jumar is an ascender. So basically, it's a device that attaches to the rope. It's got a ratchet type device, and you can push it up but you cannot pull it
So
down.
it stays there.
It stays there. So, and the Jumar is fixed by a rope to your harness. So in case you're climbing up, and let's just say you are tired, you want to let go, your Jumar holds onto the rope, and that rope holds onto your harness, and you can just hang freely.
I feel. Oh, it seems like a very easy thing,
Yeah.
but it does create a little bit of shiver through our spines. Hanging freely at about 27,000 feet may not be there.
That's about it.
Yeah, and this is the time when you learn to trust the equipment,
Yeah.
because you are attached to that 1/4-inch rope, and there are people ahead of you, people behind you. You're all hanging by that rope, but that rope is pretty strong.
That just-
And then your Jumar will hold on to the position, and of course you still have to watch out, because you should not be too close to the person ahead of you, because if they were to lose balance and if they were to fall, everybody's wearing crampons, and those things can hurt, like if they hit you on your head or something.
So audience, for those of you again, just trying to make it common language. Jumar, you just heard, it's out of a non-return valve. He talked about another one thing called crampons. Crampons is essentially spikes, sharp spikes that goes underneath your foot, underneath your shoes, because you need that sharp spikes to go and claw onto the snow or an ice to get the grip. And it is an art to wear it first and walk on it. And I'm sure Jafar has done it for like good 3 weeks on just being on crampons, which we'll talk a little bit more about. So you had Jumar training, crampon walking. What are the things?
And
you
then
did?
for descenders, so descenders, like basically it looks like a figure of 8. It's also called a figure of 8. So basically your rope goes through the figure of 8, and with one hand you can control your descent. Basically, if you let go slowly, it will basically help you come down, descend on a rope, at a comfortable pace.
Yeah. So the gravity is pulling you down. You want to make sure that it doesn't pull you down so fast, so you slowly
Yeah.
release it, and you come down. That's a descender, okay?
So that was one of the first trainings that we got. So, and then walking on crossing a crevasse on a ladder.
What's
So,
a crevasse?
crevasse? So okay, now in all glaciers, sometimes for any reason the ice may crack, and once the ice cracks, it creates basically there's a gap in
Okay, deep gash.
deep gash, and it could be a few feet, it could be a few hundred feet, and it could be
Endless.
endless, pretty much endless. You don't want to find out in that case how deep it is.
So, and do you see crevasses in Everest?
A lot of them.
Okay, we'll
A
talk
lot.
about that. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were taught how to traverse a crevasse?
Yes.
Okay.
So if it's a small crevasse, let's just say 1 foot wide or even up to 3 feet wide, you can jump across safely. So that's one thing. But if the crevasse gets wider than say 3 feet, so let's say 4 feet or more, and they could be as wide as 20 feet also. Although I did not encounter those. The maximum I think we encountered was about 10 feet.
10 feet is large because it's a
10
huge gash in
Yeah.
front of you.
Yes.
My God.
Yeah, and then what they do is they attach 2 ladders and they place them
Like a bridge.
like a bridge across on the thing, and then there are 2 ropes. So 2 ropes from one end of the ladder to the other end, and some people are able to walk across holding on to the ropes by themselves. Other people, like people that are new, sometimes need help. So there are people pulling the ropes from both ends, so that
Tight.
it's tight and it gives you some support. And basically, you walk on the rungs of the ladder on the ladder. The trick is making sure that your crampons, your boots, and the crampons
Claudins.
are sitting on 2 rungs of the ladder, so that you're stable, and then you move
My
1
God.
foot, 1 foot after
So
another.
let's visualize this, folks. Think 100, 200 feet deep
Wow.
gash, like 2 edges of an ice, and you have a ladder, just a ladder with like
Aluminum ladder.
aluminum ladder with just holes below, and you're not even on your shoes, you're on crampons. That means that sharp spikes I said, and for support you have just ropes on the side, which is and you have to catch all of the ropes with all the equipments and look down, because you have to look down to put the step properly. And then looking down, you're looking at 100, 200 feet gash below. And you have to cross that 10, 12 feet. That 10 feet itself is a long distance.
It is a long distance, and one of the things I learned and I kind of practiced myself is when I was looking down, I was not looking into the crevasse. My vision stopped at the ladder.
Think about that.
And my focus was where would my next step go?
That's brilliant.
And focus on the ladder. And this way you basically shut out what
all
you
the
don't
negative thoughts. Basically.
you don't want to see, and you focus on what you want to do. And once you get the hang of it, it is fairly easy to cross.
So what about somebody goes in the middle and just freeze out of fear?
Things
That might have happened like that, no?
Yeah, things have happened. Yes, people have actually done that. They lost their balance, fell off, and thankfully, this is where your safety line.
So
comes
you're just
into play.
hanging in the air and somebody
Yeah.
will pull you up or
Yeah,
something.
and in that case, then if somebody falls off, then people have to come. Basically, what they do is they apply the Jumar and try to pull you up with that,
Yes.
because that gives enough friction, because you don't want to pull the
Yeah.
whole weight of a person on a small rope.
Yeah.
But with the help of Jumar, you try to pull them up.
So Lubna, you're glad that you didn't know about any of these things
Oh,
before, right?
100%. 100%. I actually once, and it was about 6 months ago, I think, or maybe 3 months ago before that, when Jafar was like really, putting down the deposit, it was like, it was happening, it was getting real, and everybody was asking me, like, you actually gave permission? You're doing this, and he's actually going, and he's going to Everest? And incidentally, we had a customer who comes to, visit us at Tribos, and I sat and I was telling her, I said, oh yeah, by the way, like Jafar's going to, and we're kind of, we talk a lot, and I don't know why, I just mentioned it to her that day, because we were talking about something, and she was like, are you for real? Like that's all I do is I watch all Everest movies. This is my pastime. Whenever I go on the internet, it's because I want to see something about Everest, and he's going to Everest. And she's like, oh my God, Lubna, the stories, like the things. I said, shh.
Don't say it.
Like, don't say anything.
Ignorance is bliss.
I said, I don't want to know. I just don't want to know. And till
Alex,
today, I have not watched
Since the first time
one
you're hearing these
Everest
stories.
movie. I have never, I have not watched a movie. I haven't gone onto the internet. I haven't Googled it. I don't know what a Jumar is. I don't know what a crevasse was. I literally just kind of stayed away from this, and I'm glad I did.
See, in many respects, Lubna, it is your way of what Jafar did, like just focused only on the staircase. You just cut off all the other things that will cause negative thought process. Let's focus on a little bit and just,
Ladder is not one of the most dangerous things, because even if you fall off the ladder, you'll live, because you have
So
your
you mean to
safety
say there are
net.
more dangerous things than in the
There
story that is
are-
coming
That's
up?
coming up. The drama,
There
the emotion.
definitely
it's all
is
there.
more. Anyway, we are talking about preparations, but we did learn how to climb a wall, descend a wall,
Like ice wall kind of
ice
thing.
wall, and because that skill comes in handy throughout your climb.
Yeah.
And crossing the ladder is one of the things. But one of the things that is, the ladder, we are thinking of a horizontal ladder, but it could be that the ladder could be placed this way, which means that you're climbing up.
In that same crevasse.
Yeah, the crevasse. One edge
Yes.
of the crevasse could be like 10 feet higher than the other end. So your ladder is placed
Like that.
which is a good thing. You can just hold the ladder and climb up regularly.
So when you're climbing
but
the ladder, does the ladder move or not?
it can shake, yes. However, the more difficult part is coming down that ladder with the crevasse in there. So that is also one of the things. So you basically hang on to the ropes and make sure that you're stepping. It's the same principle. Just keep your focus on the ladder, and so.
Do you remember calling and saying how that was one of the most difficult things that you had practiced?
It
You were like, it was
yeah.
a tough.
But around the practice time, I had not encountered the Khumbu Glacier.
Which is, we'll talk about it next. But before we go to that, Kumbu, so you tell me, like in terms of preparation, while in EBC, what all other preparations you did?
Okay, then we did basically an acclimatization climb to Mount Labuche.
Yeah.
Now Mount Labuche,
It's a hard one.
It is a hard one, and sometimes people go up to EBC and do Labuche and come back home. That's it. That's the extent. But in order to climb Everest, Labuche is one of the most commonly used
Training climbs.
climb that is in. And remember, we went to Labuche back in 2019. We took a very long route, went all the way around and then went up to the high camp. That hike was about almost 5.5 miles to go up to the high camp of Labuche, which was almost like 53. We started off
17,000 feet. It was.
Yeah, 18,000 feet. Because
This is like nothing.
Yeah.
It was
17,
something.
18.
Here.
What are we talking? I mean,
Yeah.
you know.
But this time, they used a shortcut, which was very steep, and the climb starts right after you leave the village of Labuche. You start climbing all the way to the high camp, and it's a very short climb. Like within about 2 miles or so, you're at the high camp. It's very steep and it's very intense. So we went by that route, and for whatever reason, they felt like our Sherpas, I guess they wanted to test us.
Yeah.
And also they wanted to, and this was shorter in terms of time. So we used that, went up to the Labuche high camp, and the climb to Labuche started around midnight, like it typically does. So, and our target was six and a half hours to go up to Labuche. And the last time we had gone, the ice was, it was a pretty smooth sheet of ice. Not this time. This time the ice field was like, we had rocks, we had ice, we had boulders, we had all different kinds. It was like an obstacle course. At first I thought we are going on a different route.
mountain.
Yeah, but it's just that I guess
earlier in the season.
Previously in 2019 we climbed in July or end of June and almost July, so much of the ice had melted. But this time that wasn't the case, and it was a lot more difficult. So it was 6 hours of continuous climbing using the Jumar and going up. So we reached up to the summit, and there's now, at that time we didn't have it, but now there's a crevasse right before the summit.
Oh, I see.
So, but it's about 3-4 feet wide. So and then they you can typically jump across, and then you have a short climb, vertical climb before you get to the summit.
So Labuche, as he said, me and Jafar and his 14-year-old kid at that time, son, we all, and with Sonia we summited Labuche. Labuche is about 20,000 feet. It's not it's a for many people it is just a lifetime achievement.
Yeah.
It's like lifetime achievement. Go to EBC, go to 20,000 plus feet. That's it.
Actually, probably that's your PR.
Oh, that's my PR. And for me, I consider it as like as if I've done. Now it appears so small. Because he just went for a training hike to Labuche. So I'll not talk about any PR or anything right now. But let's start climbing the mountain right now.
Yes.
Okay. So if you remember, folks, climbing Everest is in many phases. First phase is the Khumbu icefall, which we'll talk about it right now. After that, you reach Camp 1, then there is a Camp 2, then there is a Camp 3, then there is a Camp 4. Camp 4 is very close to the dead zone. That means 48 hours max. Once you reach Camp 4, you have 48 hours to go and try your best to summit and come back and get down from Camp 4. So that's the journey in front. And I mean, while Jafar didn't say, while he did Labuche, he also did a couple of acclimatizations climb, isn't
Yes, we came back from Labuche, went back to the base camp, but fortunately this time we were better acclimatized.
Yeah.
So the trek from Labuche to base camp was
super easy.
Not super easy, but much easier
Yeah.
than the first time we did it. So once we went back to the base camp, have rested for a day in between, and then we started our rotations.
So let us, before we start talk about rotations, let's talk about Khumbu Icefall. What is this? What is, I know everybody talks about this Khumbu Icefall as the first big sort of exam that one has to pass
Yeah.
before even thinking about Everest. So talk to us a little bit about what it is.
What Khumbu? Now Khumbu is the name of a glacier also. So what is a glacier? Glacier is a river of ice. So it's flowing ice, which is eventually becomes a river. So what Khumbu is that you have to pass the Khumbu icefall to get from Everest Base Camp to Camp 1.
Which is the foothill of the Everest mountain.
Which is the foothill of the Everest mountain. And in order to, the icefall, now prior is basically, if you were to imagine it like blocks of ice.
Like huge
or
boulders.
Huge boulders or blocks of ice that somebody has thrown in. Or think of popcorn. A popcorn field, like you lay it out as a field, and each corn is a block of ice.
Like it's the size of this room maybe?
There are size of this room. There are some that are
Size
like
of
several
this
stories, size of the house. There are some that are smaller, and
My
that
God.
is mixed with rock. That is mixed with the mud. Everything that is flowing downhill.
And it's moving.
It is moving.
Slowly.
It's moving slowly, and it's moving at its pace. Like they say, it's several meters in a month. That's the flow rate. However, at times things break down. So the a block of ice could be resting on a piece of rock. That rock shifts, and the whole thing comes crashing down.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
And that may bury, in the best case scenario, it may bury the rope itself. So which means that your ways, you're
Changed.
lost, and then the icefall doctors have to go and fix the ropes around it or find a different way. Or in the worst case, a big serac. Serac is like in any hanging piece of ice that a block of ice that could be hanging overhead, and sometimes you have to pass underneath it. Now,
Oh my God.
And-
Don't send him to Everest.
I'm never gonna send him to Everest. ever.
generally people like the Sherpas and everybody try to rush underneath the thing. But when I first got there, you are basically, and you're running on something that's not stable ground. Like it is blocks of ice again. So my theory to them was, whether you run fast, if coincidentally if it has
That's
to fall
right,
on you,
that's right.
it will fall on you. So it's better to make sure that your feet are stable and you don't trip when
Don't
you're
slip,
falling.
yeah,
You
yeah.
don't trip and fall, because falling on ice, you can break your bones, anything can happen.
Correct.
So it's better to be sure. So walk steady. That's better than walking fast. That's my theory.
So when we cross this Khumbu, so it is like one boulder of ice to another boulder of ice to another boulder of ice. So it's basically crevasse in the middle, right?
Yes, there could be crevasses in the middle.
So then what, you have ladders from one rock to another
So
rock?
there are sometimes there are ladders, sometimes there are ropes, sometimes you may have to jump across.
Jump across.
Yeah, and sometimes you may have to you climb up about 40 feet, then climb down about another 20 feet, and then continue your climb on. So there is a lot of ascending and descending along the ropes as you go through the Khumbu.
And how broad is this like crossing?
So, it's not. You're not going across the Khumbu Glacier. You're going through the Khumbu Glacier. You're climbing up the
through the glacier up. Oh,
You're
okay.
going
Oh
up
my
the glacier.
God.
If the glacier
Oh my
because
goodness.
you are descending. You have to ascend about 800-900 meters
Through the glacier.
through the glacier, because the glacier is flowing from that direction here. So you are going up the glacier.
So you're basically, the Everest mountain is breaking down and coming like a glacier river.
Yes.
So you're going above on the river and go up to the place where you can start climbing the Everest
Correct.
mountain.
So
Oh my goodness.
once you come out of the
I'm glad I never
ice
saw
fall,
this.
then you walk up to the Camp 1, which is about a mile away from the
ice fall.
from the ice fall. So the total distance is about 7 miles, out of which 6 miles
Is
of it
on the glacier. On the glacier.
on the glacier.
How
itself.
long it took for you to get there?
First time it took me about
I was going to
almost
say, you
12
did this
hours.
twice?
Yes.
It took me about 12 hours because it
12 hours on this glacier.
Yes.
So what time you left EBC?
We left at like 1 a.m.
Oh, so you climbed in darkness?
Yes.
All of this, what we just
Yes.
talked about?
And the reason for that is in the darkness, when it's colder, the ice will not melt.
Oh.
So there is more, it'll be more stable.
So you start off at 1 o'clock in the night through this glacier and reach Camp 1 at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the
Yes.
next day afternoon?
Yes, this is how.
So all this while through this glacier, through
Yeah.
crevasses and through
Correct.
all this one.
Right. So once we get to Camp 1 has, it's just actually a resting camp. You have the tent that's laid, set on ice basically, and you don't have many facilities there, so you basically just stop there for a night or so to rest, and then to continue on.
Yeah.
So food over there is just warmed up, like noodles and things
Like a
that
melted
ready.
ice and they just tell
Yeah,
you what
they melt the ice and they heat the noodles, and it's like ready-made Maggi type of meals, and that's all that there is to it. And then from Camp 2 to Camp 3 is it's about 3 miles, but it's a very steady climb and a elevation gain of almost 400 meters or so, and it's very kind of steady, smooth,
To
and
Camp
steady.
2.
To Camp 2.
So Camp 2 is at what altitude?
Camp 2 is at 6,400 meters.
6,400 is like looking at about 21,000 feet.
Yeah.
Around 21,000
So,
feet.
yeah,
So already
so-
above Labuche. Already
Yeah,
you're getting
already
a PR
about
altitude.
like- Yeah, Camp 1 is the same height as Labuche.
Yeah.
And then this is like another 300-400 meters. So it's,
Another 1,000 feet.
Another 1,000 feet. So it's a steady climb. Camp 2 has, we have a better kitchen, better food, and because you spend more than one night.
Yeah.
So we have a kitchen tent, and of course we have one of those small tents that Camp 2 is at around 6,400 meters. So we get up to Camp 2, we spend 2 nights there. So on the second day, what we do is we do a hike to the Lhotse face, so which is on the way to Camp 3. We just stop right before the Lhotse
Peak.
Not
Big face. The
the
face.
Lhotse face,
Yeah.
face of Lhotse, which is because at which point once you start the climb from there, it's almost nearly vertical climb all the way to Camp 3.
Camp 3. So folks, if you're interested in topography, so there is Everest, which is 29,000 feet around, and then there is right next to that is the Lhotse, which is I think 28,000 feet or something, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean I know a bit better in meters.
Oh.
Like this is 8,848 meters
Yeah.
is Everest. This is 8,511.
Yeah, it's like just 300 feet, meters less than Everest. So that's another mighty mountain, and it's like when he says Lhotse face, there is a point from where you can actually see the entire face of Lhotse. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah,
That's-
it's called the Lhotse face, and but it's not you cannot see the summit of the Lhotse from this point.
Got it.
But it's called the Lhotse face which is where the nearly vertical climb begins to Camp 3.
Oh, and Camp 3 is something that you have to go. Are
Yeah.
you planning to go at this time in acclimatization as well?
Not in the acclimatization. Acclimatization, we stopped at Camp 3 is at approximately 7,300 meters.
7,300. That's like 22,500 feet.
Yeah. So we stopped at we stopped at around 6,800 meters
Got it.
just to acclimatize, and then we went back to Camp 2.
So you went to Aconcagua, you said. What was the altitude there?
6,900.
So you're already above Aconcagua level.
Yeah, well,
Almost there.
We stopped right, like just shy of what the Aconcagua elevation is.
Got it. So you got yourself acclimatized and then you climbed back, walked back to Everest Base Camp?
No, we walked baback to Camp 2, spent the night, and
Okay.
the next morning we walked back to the Everest Base Camp.
So that means you had to go through Khumbu again?
Kumbu again.
Oh, man.
And this time going down Khumbu.
This time, yeah, going down.
Did things change or it looked the same while coming down?
I mean, not too much. No, we didn't see any significant changes, but there may have been changes. And of course, the way looks different when you're coming down.
Because you go down
Yeah.
looking at the, you know. and
Exactly.
That's and again during the night time or daytime it is?
This we did it during the day. So we left the Camp 2 around 6 o'clock, and then we were at the base camp around before noon.
So from base camp to Khumbu to Camp 1 to Camp 2 to a little bit before Camp 3 and back to base camp, how long was this journey?
Okay. After Camp 2, when we went up to Lose Face, the hike was, we hiked up almost 2.5 to 3 hours. And then the way back was obviously faster. We were back at Camp 2 in 1 hour.
Okay.
And from Camp 2, so we rested that day. And next morning, we started at 6 a.m. And it took us about 5.5 hours to reach the base camp.
But in terms of resting in the night and all, it looks like 5 to 6 days you were away from base camp, huh?
Yes, so we left for the rotation on April 26th and we returned on April 30th. So full 5 days
Full 5 days in high altitude.
in high altitude.
So it's really high altitude, 5 days. So you left Nepal when? April 2nd or 3rd? When is it?
Oh,
Kathmandu I meant.
Kathmandu we left on April 5th.
So April 5th to April 29th. This is,
April,
you've done the
yeah.
first rotation, you've done Labuche, you've been in Everest Base Camp for a good 2.5 weeks, you've had those nice lunch dinners in those beautiful restrooms, you've used the restrooms, you've shaken shower, and I think you got a break now, isn't it?
Yes, at this point when we came back, because again the principle of acclimatizing is like, going and spending time at a higher location and coming back and resting at a lower location. So it is recommended that you go down as low as possible. So in this case we went back to Namche Bazaar.
Oh,
Walk
wow.
back or you flew or something?
We flew in this case.
Helicopter, luxury.
Luxury helicopter, yes. So on May 1st we took the helicopter back to Namche Bazaar.
So after almost a month of wilderness on the ice,
Yeah.
you get back to a normal room with your own bed and everything in Namche Bazaar.
That is correct. So it was a luxury to sleep on a, I would say, warm bed. Actually, there was no heat, and the Namche Bazaar can get very cold, but there was no heat. But each bed had one of those electric blankets. So
It felt amazing.
it felt amazing. I think the first night, I think my roommate recorded me snoring.